I've been in this game long enough to remember when the first Dacia Duster rolled into the UK with an unbelievably low starting price of £9,995. Unbelievable that was until you got inside it and you saw it didn't even have a radio. Well, it's now 2025 and we have this, the brand new Dacia Duster, and surprise, surprise, it no longer starts from £9,995. In fact, with the new entry-level model costing from around £19,000, it's almost doubled in price. So is it twice as good? I know everything is more expensive than it used to be, and I'm not necessarily knocking Dacia for the price increase either, because if anything, this car is, well, it's more than twice as good as the original. For a start, there's just the way it looks. This is a really smart looking vehicle. It's 4.3 meters long, so it's not huge, but it looks pretty tough actually. And for a budget vehicle, it still has a lot of smart details on it. So you can see in the LED headlights here, nice shapes. Actually, this cladding is quite interesting as well. So looks like traditional plastic cladding. It's actually a new material that Dacia has pioneered called Starkle. A couple of things about that. One, it contains up to 20% recycled materials. There's a little 20% badge on there. And two, it's dyed rather than painted. And the idea there is that if you scratch it, it doesn't show the scratches as much. Although this one does have a scratch on it down here, and it is pretty obvious to see. So I'm not sure how effective the Starkle is in that regard. But overall, smart looking car, looks like more than it costs, quite frankly. And you even get these Land Rover Defender-esque ridges on the bonnet here. Looks really cool. Then there's what's under the bonnet. Fact is, all three of the powertrains offered in the latest Duster have a party trick, whether it's the bi-fuel ability of the entry-level model that allows it to run on petrol or LPG, the more powerful petrol engine's mild hybrid system, or the full hybrid setup that we have today. This choice is in part because Dacia is owned by Renault and therefore has access to the French car maker's full toolkit. That includes the hybrid system, which is the same as you get in a Renault Captur. It includes the platform, which is the same as you get in a Renault Clio, and it helps Dacia offer lots of value. Now, speaking of value, a big part of that is how much space you get in this car. And it's good news. So in this hybrid model, 430 litres of boot space. You can change the boot floor in this particular trim, so you can have it at higher position. It's a kind of a split arrangement, a bit like Nissan Qashqai, so you can then use it to partition the boot if you want, stop your shopping falling over. So yeah, 430 litres in the hybrid, which is decent. If you get the spare wheel, you get a bit less, so note that. If you really want to maximise boot space, go for the front wheel drive standard petrol model, 517 litres. That's a huge boot in a sort of a compact crossover like this. Really good job from Dacia. So nice big door openings in the back. You've still got a couple of exposed screw heads up here. Going back to Dacia's roots as a real budget brand. But you know what? It's all right in here. So I'm 5'11", and you know, I haven't got loads of leg room, but I fit okay. There's loads of room under the seat for my feet. There's lots of headroom. It's fine. Yeah, you know, definitely some signs that costs have been kept in check in terms of materials used, but got a couple of USB-C chargers here in this particular trim. No centre armrest, but if you wanted to get three across rather, you can just about do it. It's going to be a bit of a squeeze, but yeah, it's really not bad. Do you know, the front of the Duster is much better actually than you might anticipate. In this Journey trim model, you've even got a bit of blue plastic up here to go with the rest of the black plastic to help liven things up. Oh, some silver plastic down here too. It's all very hard and scratchy, but you know, this is a fairly utilitarian kind of mini off-roader, and particularly the four-wheel drive ones, which are decent off-road. So actually all of that kind of fits in a way. Speaking of which, the view through the front over this bonnet with all the ridges is great. Quite thick A-pillars here and very limited over the shoulder visibility. So having a reversing camera in here, this one's got blind spot monitors, actually really useful in the Duster. But generally speaking, this is a pretty cool interior. The steering wheel seems perhaps a little bit large. It's a bit odd. It's flat at the top and bottom as well. But other than that, you know, you've got 7-inch digital dials in this particular trim. You've got the gear selector is this sort of funky thing. Nothing sort of looks cheap, which, you know, was really the Dacia way not so long ago. And even like the basics have improved compared with older Dusters. So in an old Duster, there was no footrest for your left foot, whereas now there is. So kind of improvements everywhere, really. Dacia's 10.1-inch touchscreen looks a bit basic and it can be a bit slow to respond, but it includes wireless Apple CarPlay, which is another example of how much more advanced this car is than you might expect. Some of the details aren't perfect, like the low resolution reversing camera, but the Duster is so much cheaper than its rivals that you can forgive it this. Some nice detail stuff that Dacia does. So on the environmental impact side, it's taken any chrome out of the interior. It's even actually slimmed down the driver's manual. So this is all you get. Like usually in a car, new car these days, the handbook is the size of an encyclopedia, but nope, Dacia's put it all online and just gives you that to save some paper. Now, it should be said that if you like Audis and BMWs and the really plush materials and the super slick graphics on the infotainment system, the powerful stereo, you like all of those things, you're not going to like the Duster. This is still quite a pragmatic car. I think the point though is that it's a bit better in every regard than you might expect. It doesn't feel as bargain basement as it once did. It actually feels pretty good. Given the vast number of new cars on sale these days of so many different shapes and sizes, it's no surprise that there are actually only a few parent brands that control all these other car companies. Now, if you're a budget brand like Dacia, that's actually good news because it means you can have access to the kind of technology and equipment that you probably wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. So in the case of this particular test car, a good example of that is the hybrid system. So it's Renault's hybrid system. It's a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, an electric motor and a 1.2 kilowatt hour battery. And we've tested this in other Renaults, and to be honest, its presence in the Dacia is, well, it's a bit of a mixed blessing. It is a very frugal engine. Getting 50 miles per gallon out of the Duster is not difficult. And, you know, performance is okay, but because I suspect the Duster has less sound deadening than its Renault counterparts, you really do hear the engine when it fires into life. And given that the system holds on to its lowest gear until you exceed 30 miles per hour, you might end up spending a lot of your town driving accompanied by an annoyingly loud thrum from the engine. So good things about this hybrid system. Well, one, it always pulls away on EV power, which does help to make the Duster feel a bit more sophisticated, quite frankly. And with 139 horsepower, you know, 0 to 62 in 10.1 seconds, the acceleration is fine for this class of car. So 26 miles an hour, foot flat to the floor. You know, it does pick up. It's not fast by any stretch of the imagination, but it's fast enough. However, I personally think I would still be going for the 1.2 litre mild hybrid. You won't have things like the brake regen as effective as you get in this hybrid car, which is good. You can just adjust it on the gear selector down here, but you'll be saving yourself around £3,000. And although you have to make do with a 6-speed manual gearbox, there's no auto on that particular engine at the moment, you can choose between 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. Speaking of which, go for a Duster with 4x4 and it's a capable little off-roader, helped by its light weight of under 1,400 kilograms, 20 centimetres of ground clearance and competitive approach and departure angles, plus the fact you'll probably feel less precious about it than you would in a brand new Land Rover. One more tick in the Duster's favour is it does have a good amount of physical controls for things. So physical heater controls down here, always a tick, but also because it's Renault, it has Renault's excellent My Perso or My Safety Perso safety system. So you can save all your safety preferences on this one button, and then you press it once and once again to confirm, and then it will set the car up just as you want it. It means you don't get those annoying safety warnings when you don't want them. As far as the rest of the driving experience goes, I would say, and this is a bit of a common theme with the Duster, it's probably better than you might expect. These Dacias used to be really pretty woolly in terms of how they drove. They would bounce around everywhere, didn't like going quickly. This new Duster is a lot better than that. It feels much more tied down. They have got better with, you know, each generation and over the years, but this is actually quite a big step forward compared with previous Dusters. It's still not, you know, particularly engaging and dynamic and fun, but lots of these crossovers aren't, but it feels really safe, it feels really secure, it turns into corners well enough. The ride's a little bit fidgety, particularly at low speeds, but I don't think it's a disaster by any stretch. I think actually this is perfectly fine to drive. Which isn't to say that everybody should be rushing out to buy a Duster straight away. As we've already highlighted, this car doesn't have the broad appeal of something like a Ford or VW, and you can still detect its budget roots when it comes to refinement, particularly road noise and wind noise at higher speeds. I think that's okay though, because there's always going to be a trade-off, isn't there? If you're paying thousands of pounds less for one car over another, then there are going to be compromises. And I just think in the Dacia's case, the compromises probably aren't as great as you might expect. In fact, one of the things I like about the Duster is that although it is, you know, so much cheaper, frankly, than its rivals, it also has a character of its own. It feels like a car with a bit of personality, a bit of charm, and although a lot of that charm is associated with being quite utilitarian, and that of course is not going to appeal to a lot of buyers, for those who it does, it means they're getting something that actually feels like it has a bit more value to it than it otherwise would. It's more than just a cheap car. I think this Duster is actually pretty good in its own way. Let us know your thoughts on the Dacia Duster in the comments, and remember that if you're in the market to buy a car, then cargurus.co.uk is the place to go to find loads of great deals from top rated dealers.